What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Sunbelt Syndicate. And we've got everybody's favorite, a guest, so that you don't have to hear the three idiots talk this whole time. So enjoy Mr. Caleb Cross, a right-handed pitcher from App State. Technically your second appearance on the show this year, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You lit it up. I'm going to let Marv talk about that because he's more of our stats guy. And then Seth, I was also in Boone to see that performance from you. But Marv, I know you want to start off with some statistical anomaly that Caleb was aiming for on Friday.
It's a thing that you don't talk about when you're in the dugout when it's happening. But, yeah, Caleb, 7 hitless, scoreless innings. And we were talking before the show, 111 pitches. Know you wanted to finish the thing out, but, man, congratulations. Just a phenomenal game. What were you seeing out there? Like, you didn't strike out a lot, getting a lot of contact, and defense obviously playing well. But what was kind of just going on that led to that performance?
Early on, I got behind in a ton of counts, and it got to the point where I ended up walking 3, I think, by the third inning. And Joseph Zamora, second baseman, made a diving play in the third inning to get me out of a jam. And I think that really set the tone that I could just throw it in the zone and let the defense play behind me, and I just had some help back there, so I didn't have to do it all myself.
Yeah, I don't remember you getting behind in many counts after that. I think from the fourth inning on, you were just throwing absolute darts. Hey, real quick, before we get too far, how's Kramer doing? That for anyone that didn't see it, I mean, he makes a heck of a catch and scary moment. How's he doing, and kind of how has the team responded to that?
I mean, he's all right. Obviously, tough situation, runs into the wall, catches the ball, saves the no-hitter. And, I mean, I know there's some details. I don't know what all I can get into, but I know he definitely probably has a concussion. I think he might have broken his nose. Not sure what else there is, but he's texted the group chat a little bit, and we know he's all right. I think he's at home with his family right now, just dealing with the whole situation.
Yeah, glad to hear that he's all right, because that was scary to watch on TV, and I'm sure kind of what goes through your head when you're on the mound and you're in the zone like that and you're having the game that you're having, to see one of your brothers go down like that. How do you regather yourself and process it to go back out there and continue pitching?
I mean, as soon as I saw it happen, if you were there at the game or watching on the stream, I dropped to my knees. Bryson Church came over there and put his arm around me, and we just prayed for him just to see if the Lord could keep his hand on him, keep him healthy and everything. And after that, I just had to try to regroup, get back in the zone, and do it for him. I think the whole team was just trying to do it for him the rest of the game.
Glad to hear he's going all right. Seth, Dom, y'all jump in. Don't want to hog it.
It was a good week. First weather weekend we've had that's been decent. Got to watch Caleb's performance Friday night, which was, like he said, it was awesome. And then Saturday I got to watch a doubleheader. So I got to watch baseball all weekend. It was, and especially in March in Boone, to watch all 3 games. It's a little bit of a miracle. And Caleb, what the heck is going on at the stadium right now? It is an absolute mess trying to get up there. What all we got? Apartments being built now, and
so we got apartments being built, new classrooms. I think they've got the road shut down up there, doing some construction over there. It's a mess. You've got to drive through construction zones all over the place.
Seth, are they still charging you for parking? I know that's been a hot subject for Seth. He doesn't like to pay to park.
It is $5 now. Yes.
I will say, on behalf of people who pay a whole lot more for professional sporting events, Marv, you know what it is to go to a Carolina Hurricanes game right now? If you don't pay ahead of time,
$30,
$40.
Are you serious?
Do you want to know how much it was for the first round of the NCAA tournament here in Raleigh?
I'm 60 to park.
Yes.
Woo! I want to. Hey, I don't want to own a franchise. I just want to own the parking lot. That's where the money's at.
That's all you got to do. Yeah. So Seth, no more complaints about $5, my friend.
One other thing that I don't understand, some friends of ours have season tickets for baseball, and they don't even get parking.
That's it. I didn't know that was a thing.
Not even included in that either.
Yeah. I mean, we get a certain amount of parking passes to give out to our parents or anything like that. And then we get a certain amount to park behind right field instead of having to walk from the Greenwood lot over to the field.
Caleb,
so you guys are all driving individually to the game for the most part? They don't make you guys park somewhere else and then all?
We'll park over there at that parking lot beside the Chancellor's house on the way up Bodenheimer, and then we'll carpool over to the right field lot.
Gotcha.
Caleb, your parents get to attend a lot of home games?
They do. I live in Hickory now, so they come up pretty much every home game that they can.
I was about to say, when you said you get them for family, if your family wasn't close, Seth was going to start hitting you up for parking passes now.
I can get you something.
I did notice that shirt your mom had on Friday night with
me
your
on
picture.
it.
Man, that is sweet.
Yeah, they got them. They got them a couple weeks ago, and ever since then, every Friday they've been wearing them.
So Seth, I don't know about this shirt. You didn't tell me about this thing. What does this thing look like?
Caleb can tell you a little bit more. It's got his mug all over it, though. It's pretty sweet.
I might be able to pull up a picture for you, but it's a little NIL deal I got going with a company that makes like graphic T-shirts with me on.
Well, you're gonna have to send the link out, my man.
Yeah.
That is nice.
Yeah. So they've got a couple of those that they wear to every Friday game.
Nice. Yes. Send us that link. We'll post it.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yep.
I will. Yep.
Awesome.
Off subject, but I got to just mention this. Did you guys see the thing from Coastal for, I guess, football games next year? They're going to do like free concessions about parking and everything. It's just,
how is that working out?
I don't know, but it's a genius move to get people to come to the ball games. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what sport it is. Like if you tell people free concessions, all you need to tell them is cheaper concessions. That's already going to win them over a little bit. You tell them free, there's going to be a whole lot of people there, because that's the hardest part to swallow to me, as like taking a family like Seth, Marv, we've got kids, and it's like, all right, I got 4 people to feed, and it's $10 for, a soda and half a meal, because it's, it's just ridiculous. So anyway, just wanted to mention that for people that had seen that floating around. It does seem to be real, because it came from their official site. So I don't know how they're pulling it off. I didn't see all the details. I had a crazy day to get to this point, but I did see that quick hit. So I'll investigate a little bit further. Ben James jumping in saying, "What's up to everybody?" He's currently watching the Cardinals because that's his favorite MLB team. So he's got everything. I don't know how he does that. I cannot split screen it and listen to 2 things. I can split screen and watch 2 things and only have audio on one. And I ain't listening to 2 things. That's impossible. And one more quick hit. He's telling Seth he had a great pick for last weekend, and we'll get to those picks and review that. And Caleb, we all chose Ab. Who was it that chose you in a sweep? Was that Marv or was that Seth?
That was Seth.
Was it
Sweeps are hard in this conference, and kind of leading to that, Caleb, kind of summarize how you think the season's going so far. We'll take the non-conference out, obviously, sweep a Texas State team, which I think is a pretty solid baseball team, and then, get swept by Georgia Southern, and then come take 2 out of 3 and head into ULM this weekend. Just where do you think the team stands? And, do you guys think you can carry some momentum down to Monroe?
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot right now. Obviously, we would have liked to take at least 2 games from Georgia Southern. We had chances in a couple of them and didn't go our way, but Texas State's a really good baseball team, and I think we just had a good weekend that weekend. But I don't think anybody's stressed about where we're at right now. 5-4 in conference with a lot of ball to go, and taking 2 from ODU this weekend. I think we could have taken 3. We were really close to it, but that's baseball for you. So I think we're looking forward to it, but we got to play Western and ULM this week. So,
yeah. How much does it help to have Juan back in the lineup? Obviously, you missed some time. I don't think he's playing defensively right now, just as a DH. And, as Seth said, he hit an absolute moonshot this weekend that just landed earlier this morning. But what does that do to the lineup to have, that guy, that kind of power back in?
Obviously we like to have him in the lineup, but when somebody else fills in for him, it's the same type of lineup. But Juan's one of those guys that can go in there and hit a home run like he did this weekend, or just go put together good at-bats. And I think it kind of just changes the whole demeanor of the lineup. Like, you got that guy in there that you can kind of know that he's going to put something together for the team, and you can build it around him.
Talk about the rest of that lineup for a minute, Caleb.
Honestly, I faced the lineup in inter squads and everything like that leading up to the season, and it's one of those that's you can't really catch your breath. 1 through 9 is a battle to get them out every time, and obviously everybody has some stretches where they're not hitting great, but you go up and have Dylan Moquin, who's been hit by pitch 12, 15 times, something like that on the season, still batting around 300 to lead off that. And you got Joseph Moore, switch hitter, who puts the ball in play, hits it hard. You can't really do much about him. And then depending on where it goes, Juan Correa in there, Cam Miller, Graham Smiley, Bryson Church, all those guys with power that you kind of have to battle against through 3 through 6, depending on the day. And then at the bottom of the lineup, you got your outfielders, Charlie Evans, Xavier Lopez, John Kramer before, that can do their job and help us win.
Very nice. So you said, you got Western coming up this week. You started off your career at UNCA, right? UNC Asheville. Do you have some familiarity with that roster? Because, you were close by in Asheville to Western, and obviously now at App State, kind of recent history, probably before your time, but, App State and Western used to play each other routinely and some stuff. So I don't know how many guys you may know on those rosters over there.
Funny story is Western Carolina was actually my first collegiate outing when I was at UNC Asheville. And we started off in the midweek, and I threw my first outing that day. But with the transfer portal and everything like that, and my 5th year in college, I don't think I know, but maybe one guy on the team still from my first year there. But I know they're a good team, and they've got some guys that have transferred in, and we played them in the fall. And, they look like a pretty solid baseball team with a good pitching staff, lots of good bats.
Very nice.
Did you ever hear – how long were you at Asheville for, Caleb?
Just my first year.
This was many, many years ago. One of my best friends, Dominic, Michael Nigro,
yep.
His brother, Chris, Asheville went to the regional. This might have been the last time Asheville ever went to a regional. I think he went 8 against Clemson, almost beat Clemson. Gosh, this was so long ago. What would you say, like 15 years ago, brother?
Probably.
He was a stud at Asheville. Anyways, almost beat Clemson in the regional. But Asheville's a good ball team.
Yep.
Yeah. I got a question. So, it says did you grow up here in Sanford, North Carolina, kind of closer to Marv and I?
I did. Yep. Okay. I grew up there until I graduated high school, and then my parents moved up to Hickory.
See, this is the stuff that's crazy because, you don't know that, right? I go to your bio page, and it just tells me. So I think you're coming back down to this side of the state every time you got a break from school, or you're not in season. And now you're just trekking down to the highway, mountain, whatever you want to call it, down the hill to Hickory. So that's where I grew up, funny enough. But going to Crawdads games when I was a kid. So I know you're familiar with that, having played in there and everything else. Is there a stop or a spot in Hickory that you like to eat at when you're down there?
Yeah, there's a little sports bar and grill, Back Streets, that I like to go to. It's right there beside the high school where my mom teaches. So we go there every once in a while when she's done with school.
So your mom teaches at Hickory?
Yep, she does.
The Red Tornadoes. I
know about Hickory High School football.
Yeah,
they're legit.
It's a powerhouse.
They're legit. Hey, on the topic of food, what's your go-to spot in Boone? Like post game, you throw 111 pitches and a no-hitter. Like, where's Caleb going to eat?
Well, it depends. The other night we got done around 10 o'clock, so the only thing open is Cookout. But
never met
day, probably some Los, probably some Mexican food over at Los.
Nice.
There you go.
Very nice.
Very nice. I'm so I don't get up there enough to really have an opinion. I actually like the place Seth took me to up farther. Is the place in Banner Elk, Seth?
Yeah, Puerto Nuevo.
Yeah, there we go. That one, I like that one.
It's still a big debate in Boone. When I was at App, it was you were either a Los guy or a Dos guy. And, you could pretty much separate your friends based off of that.
Yeah, that's still a thing. I lean towards Los. It's on the side of town that I live on. I don't really go over towards Dos very often, but I think Los is better.
Gotcha.
Nice. Shout out to our resident Texas State fan, Artie Cat, also joining the show. I know last time he asked us if we had any plans to get to the conference tournament. We are in the works on that. We are discussing it and trying to figure out some stuff. So Artie, possibly some appearance at some portion of the conference tournament. I don't know if it's realistic that we all have almost a whole week off. As Caleb knows, some of those games start on Tuesday, Wednesday, and then go all the way till Sunday afternoon before you get a winner. Not sure we could pull off that long of a time frame, but we'll see what we can do on that. But
Caleb, I had a question regarding ULM. Sometimes when we talk about ULM, especially football, it seems like ULM's 3 continents away from Boone. Seems like it takes forever to get there. It's always the travel. It's a killer. Have you experienced going to ULM yet?
I have. My first year at App, we flew into New Orleans and then drove 3 hours on top of the flight and everything to get there. So it's a haul. I hope this year we're flying in somewhere a little bit closer.
Will you leave on Thursday?
Yeah, I think we're leaving Thursday morning pretty early.
We heard the same thing with Texas State a little bit, but I think Texas State, travel-wise, is a little easier to get in and out of. But it's still far away. I mean, we've often had that conversation as Artie's a big part of the show and what we do here on a weekly basis. It's like you got to get some kind of partner for Texas State eventually, or maybe they will leave. Like they've, their fans, some of their fans are excited to do so, and otherwise we're just kind of sitting here in flux of whether they'll be around long term or not. I have an interesting thing. So we called this episode Right Down the Middle, right? That's a double entendre for the fact of how well you pitched and how well you've been doing so far this season, as well as what we'll put up now, which is the standings as the conference. And I'm not needing, very big detail on any one of these, but it is kind of funny to be that you could split the top 7 with the overall winning percentage. Conference winning percentage. It's almost split right down the middle as far as conference winning percentage is over 500 and under 500. That's 7-7. The overall winning percentage is almost the exact same. The only one that would not be with an overall winning percentage you can see on screen is the Cajuns, who are sitting at 14 and 15 overall. Everybody else in that top 7 is a winning record, including App State at 5-4 in the conference and 14 and 13 overall. It doesn't probably not surprise you that everyone's kind of jam-packed into this very, very tight conference look as it is right now?
Not at all. They don't call it the Fun Belt for just no reason. But I mean, I think every team has their strengths and weaknesses, and I think anybody could beat everybody in any given weekend.
I agree with that. I just looking at that, it's kind of crazy how one series could literally jump, besides maybe the top team or bottom team or two. You're changing your whole outlook. Marshall next week, if they sweep somebody, it's going to be a 6-6 record from being under 500.
Could easily be. You guys could be 8-4 come Sunday night. Easily.
Yeah,
it's crazy too. I mean, you think about
it. Just depends if your Friday guy shows up or not.
Let's hope he does.
I mean, you're talking about the conference, Caleb. I mean, I watched a lot of that Game 3 rubber match, South Alabama versus Southern Miss. I mean, that game goes 12 innings. South Alabama had them almost beat several times, but we talked about it with you and Coach Smith before the season. I mean, top to bottom, there's no easy wins in this conference, and as we know, sweeps they're valuable. If you can get one, you got to get it when you can.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at it, South Al's as of right now is in the bottom of the conference. Southern Miss is at the very top, and South Al took one from them this weekend and had a chance to take 2, which could have had a completely different outlook on the standings as of right now.
Yeah, and also you got to mention that South has beaten a highly ranked team earlier this season too, right? I was having a side conversation on one of the social, I think it was Reddit, with when I post the scores as I do, someone was saying, Southern Miss took the series, but from a Southern Miss fan, this was somebody who was posting saying it was way closer than anybody would have thought. Going in, maybe even if they're just looking at scores, it just was a whole lot more difficult to walk out with victories as you would think, the number 13 team in the country, but it ain't easy. So it's interesting to see what all has happened here. I mean, we just did, and we'll get into it after Caleb's gone, so because we can get off topic on that quick. But when we did our picks, we picked every single series this week, and it ain't pretty. There's a whole lot of red and a whole lot of X's on that thing, but it was fun to do.
To be fair, in our defense, I don't know, Caleb, if you ever seen it. When we pick series, you don't just pick the winner. You have to pick
2 out of 1. Yeah, 2 to 1.
You got to pick. Hey, talking about the standings, how much do you even look at it, or you just try to control your next outing, control the next series, or as the season goes on, are you kind of looking at, all right, here's where we're going to be seated in the tournament, and here's who we're going to have to go against?
I think it depends. As of right now, it doesn't really matter because things could flip really fast. But I think as you get towards the end, you got to see where you're going to end up, if you're going to be in the top 6 and those 7 through 10 that are going to be in a playing game or wherever that might be.
Gotcha.
Makes sense there.
Yeah, well, I saw a couple scouts this weekend, a couple radar guns Friday night as well. Any idea who or why they were there? Or?
They were there for Caleb.
The radar guns weren't there for me, I'll say that. But maybe Jordan Fisher. He's been rolling out there hitting some 95s in the past. So
Hey, listen, Greg Maddox proved you don't have to throw 96, man. You have good control over 3 or 4 pitches. You'll be all right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, chicks dig the long ball. Have you seen that commercial with Maddox and Glavine?
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's one of the greatest commercials ever. Do you know what I'm talking about? Seriously?
I think so.
Yeah, it's an old Sports Center commercial, wasn't
Like
it?
old Nike commercial, I think.
Okay.
We'll find
I've
out.
got one last question for Caleb. When we kind of talked about this, we got on air. Speaking of your guys, just talk about Tyler Lichtenberger for a second. Freshman coming in, leading the conference in batting average. I mean, this weekend he's just seeing the ball really well. What is a freshman coming into your lineup, starting at shortstop and playing the way he's playing? What does that mean for your team?
I mean, it's huge. I mean, you look at a guy that going through the fall, early spring, was fighting for a spot at either shortstop or second or third base, sorry. And opening day, he wasn't in the lineup. And then we had a couple injuries. He starts at shortstop that Sunday doubleheader, and he's gotten on base every single game he's played in so far. And I mean, you can't really pitch around him. He doesn't strike out very often. He gets 2 strikes, put the ball in play, and obviously gets a ton of hits.
Very nice.
And he goes 4 for 5 on Friday night when you're pitching, so he's your buddy.
And he's finally starting to lean into some of that power he's got in there.
There you go. So how many road trips have you guys taken now, like for series anyway? Is it just 2?
Just 2. Down to Charleston and Georgia Southern.
Okay.
Yep.
And what position were you in the Mafia game, right? You guys are playing this, as we've talked about, I think, before?
On the way down there, we played a little bit. On the way back from both of those, we didn't because we ended up dropping both series. But I try to stay on the low back there, not really get into anything. If we're playing Mafia, I'll keep quiet so I don't get voted off quick. But
So what does that mean then? You're actively involved, but you're just trying to like survive as a character, or is it?
I might sit back and see what happens and not really put my input in there because people tend to think I lie a little bit when we play that game. So I try to just keep quiet.
So you stick around the longest. That's kind of the hope with being quiet
That's
for
the
them.
goal. Yeah, that's the goal.
Nice. Are they kind of, when they run it, is it typically kind of upperclassmen controlling the game and the younger guys are trying to like learn how to do this properly?
Yeah, if they know how to do it, they know how to do it. But we've got one guy who walks down the middle and runs it all, Zach Lewis, older guy. He'll come through the middle, and we kind of try to keep the younger guys from saying too much.
Gotta love that, man. Yeah, so we got to get that link from you for the merch, man. We'll definitely share that around. I know Seth will be sporting it rather early up there in the mountain. Is it something that ships, or is it something that like?
Yep, they ship them.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Caleb, just send me that link tonight, and I'll get it to these guys.
Yep, I can send it to you.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys got any more questions for Caleb?
Caleb, we appreciate you, man. I just wish you nothing but continued success, man.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me on.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely,
Watching
man.
Friday.
Anytime.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you.
All right, buddy.
All right,
Best of
brother.
luck,
Good
Caleb.
luck.
See ya.
All right. So weekly series picks here. Let's see if I can, while we're talking about this, get this centered a little bit better. But a lot of red here, fellas. What are we thinking on how we did for our first time doing every single series? I'll put it on full screen here so we can see it a little bit.
This game's hard.
Yeah, to our credit, baseball is just like Caleb talked about. I mean, anybody can win on any given night. So there are a lot of X's, but it's almost impossible to get even over 500 on these things. It's tough.
Yeah. What's funny to me is that we each had the exact same record this week specifically. Every single one of us had 3 series correct and 4 series wrong. Not all the same. None of us had all the same. And how many were really close, right? The Arkansas State ULM came down to that last game. 2 of us, I mean, it was going to be 2 of us got it right or 1 of us got it right. And Seth ends up taking that one, picking Arkansas State to win that 2-1. If you saw the graphic online earlier as the social media post, we have to, somebody caught this. Again, it's a lot of numbers. Sometimes you just get mixed up in your head. I
called it too. I was about to call you and be like, hey, you cheated me on that Marshall.
I did. I cheated you on the Marshall game. I gave you an X, and your record was worse. I have since corrected it. So going forward, it will be corrected. It's corrected here on this graphic specifically. You did correctly predict 2-1 in favor of Troy. Seth and I leaned towards the 3-0 sweep there. Marshall got a hold of that last one. Man, I'll tell you what, when and that first column there, Georgia State versus Georgia Southern, that first game Friday night, 20-0 by the Eagles. I said, oh, there goes my sweep. I'm sold. I'm the only one who picked it. I'm good to go. Seth thought Georgia State would, I guess, turn it around or flip it, and Marv correctly predicted the 2-1 outcome in that one. But I thought I had that one in the bag pretty early.
Yeah, I bet.
Georgia Southern gets swept their first series, and now they've won 5 of the last 6.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. I think, again, with the Southern Miss game as well, 2 of us, Seth and myself, picked 2-1. Marv went a little stronger, went the 3-0. Almost was 3-0. You know what I mean? So many of these were so close at the outcome. Coastal, same thing. They lost to Texas State 1-0 on Saturday. Otherwise, Coastal's looking at a sweep, which 2 of us predicted, and myself and Marv. So really interesting stuff, a lot of fun. We do think, guys, I think we were in agreement. We'll go this way the rest of the season for conference games as far as picking them all, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do it going forward, like next year as well. When we're not in conference, it's too much. I'm not picking 14 series.
It's hard to know that many, yeah. I mean, even in the conference when the first series of the year happens, we're probably throwing stuff at a wall and hope it sticks. But yeah, this was it was a lot of fun. The first time you put a graphic like this together, I will tell you, it's kind of a lot of work to figure it out, make sure the sizing works, it's readable. You don't want it too small. You want it to be able to be read on both computers and a phone screen. So it is a little bit of work in progress. We've got to figure it out now. We can just roll right through it. It should be nice and easy and fun to do along the rest of the season. Artie Cat saying y'all need to visit San Marcos this year. You don't have to worry about a hotel just in case the worst happens. I would love to, especially if we're hearing these rumors of them leaving the conference. Definitely want to get down there before that happens. I really want to get down there for a football game because I think their stadium is completely underrated. I think they're getting a little bit more exposure after the last 2 seasons of Texas State Bobcat football. But one of the best looking stadiums, I think, at the group of 5 level across the country. And it's flirting with being one of the best stadiums in general. I mean, outside, inside, the expansion they're doing. They kind of went with the same thing, guys. I'm not sure how many listening and watching are aware as well, but they had the track around the field just like App State used to have, just as a lot of teams had to deal with. But they have really gone with making it not even noticeable whatsoever at all. I know App has at least that one side where it's kind of noticeable how far away everything is from the field still, but Texas State has done it differently, and it looks a lot better than it ever has before. So full credit to Texas State for what they've been able to do. Any last words before we move on from the weekly picks, the review of the weekly picks? Nothing. All right. So we will get to best in class, and from here we can jump back and forth between the standings. I know there's going to be some thoughts and feelings on some of this. I think I'm pretty well prepared to defend a lot of my stances, but I know we'll have some differencing of opinion. So I'll go through it. Single A includes ODU, JMU, ULM, Arkansas State. The double A section is the largest of the groupings right now, includes Texas State, South Alabama, Marshall, Georgia State, App State. In triple A, I've got Georgia Southern, the Cajuns, surprisingly enough, and in the show, the teams that are always there right now, Troy, Southern Miss, Coastal Carolina are only 3 ranked teams because Coastal's back in the rankings this week, boys. Top 25, 3 of them right back in there. Hey, you know what's funny? You know how we did that blind resume thing last week?
Yeah.
The team that we thought didn't belong in Stanford, they're now out, and Coastal's now in. It's funny how that works out, right?
How did Georgia Tech do this weekend, just to be completely off topic?
I have it up.
Clemson. I think Clemson took 2-1, maybe.
For the week total, they were 2-2. So I'm not sure how the exact. If Seth is correct, 2-1, then they lost in midweek as well there. So it's interesting. Let me put this over here to the side so I can continue reading it. It's interesting how many ranked teams did not fare very well throughout this week. I don't know. What do you guys think? When Southern Miss drops 1, but I think they lost 2 overall this weekend, right?
Yeah, I think they lost their midweek, and they lost 1 to South Alabama and had to go to the 12th. I think that's fair. I'm actually surprised they didn't lose. I would have thought they would have ended up 17 or 18.
I thought they'd be right on the cusp of being outside the top 25 with a 2-2 week. But here's maybe some reason why they were not. Clemson only goes 3-2 on the week. They're up there at number 6, so not below them. Oklahoma, Oregon State, both above them at 10 and 11, both just go 2-2 on the week. Below them, you had Oregon go 1-2, Auburn go 1-3, Dallas Baptist 2-2, Louisville 2-2, and then a couple other teams were in the win column. Kansas State goes 4-0, but Vanderbilt just 1-3 on the week, still remains ranked there at 23. So I think that's probably helping Southern Miss's cause to stay with not only within the rankings, but kind of where they were at. And hopefully that's showing a little bit of respect to South Alabama and what they've also been able to do. But enough of me talking. Let's see here some differences of opinion about what these guys are doing in single, double, and AAA, because I know you guys don't agree with all of them.
I'm not going to fight you as much on this as I have in the past.
Yeah, I actually don't have a problem either.
Why don't you screw something up so we can debate?
Okay. All right.
Georgia State's, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about possibly with a show, and now we're talking could be in single A next week. They fell pretty hard. I do agree with you with the Georgia Southern pick. Yes. Didn't start off so hot. Now they're playing some good ball. Louisiana, they're kind of like, that's fine. Don't talk about us anymore. We'll slowly and quietly just make a statement. So no, man, I don't. Poor old ULM. Yeah, I don't hate it at all, man. I think you did a good job with it.
Yeah, okay. I agree. I'm not going to fight you.
I actually thought you guys would have some problem with maybe like Georgia Southern and Louisiana being up in AAA, but it's like
Georgia
you said.
Georgia Southern 5 out of 6 conference games their last 2 series. They get a sweep and then win 2 out of 3. Can't be mad at that. Cajuns get a sweep. I'm trying to see who they played this weekend.
Based on week to week basis, yes. If that's what we're doing, I agree with it.
Yeah. It definitely a heavier week to week basis. Still looking at kind of the big picture, right? Like if the Cajuns were 6-3 and they were 20-8 overall, like Coastal Carolina, they'd be up in the show, right? But I've got to put the fact that they're only 14-15 overall as a part of the equation, right? Like, okay, you're hot right now, but you weren't great early in the season. So I've got to still say, AAA. You can't be up at the show just because 2 good weeks, even though that's put them up there tied for second place in the conference as it stands right this second. And then anybody who kind of beat somebody, like App State beat ODU, they can't possibly be on the same line to me, right? Same thing with Georgia State and Georgia Southern. Like, I can't say that somebody is in the same classification if they just beat them, right? I mean, I have a hard time doing that. It's not impossible, but, I don't know. That's kind of a thought process there.
I don't hate it at all. I think going forward, though, there needs to be, or even like Marv said, starting next year, it needs to either be body of work through the whole year or week to week. We can't, because if you're going week to week, App should have been in AAA after a sweep,
Yeah. I was sitting here thinking.
You can't justify putting Georgia Southern in AAA based on poll, I don't think, but
true.
That's all I'm paying.
I was thinking as we were going through this, I think the longer we go through the season, it'll be 2 components, right? Recency bias plus body of work. Because if Troy and Southern Miss were to play this weekend and Southern Miss were to take 2 out of 3 or Troy were to take 2 out of 3 in a tightly contested series, you wouldn't move one down.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that's what some of these things are not hurting some teams, like Texas State, for example. I'm not going to drop them to single A because they lost a series to Coastal, even if they got swept. I don't know if I'd drop them down because here, like, take a look at the standings here after this. Texas State 4-5. They're right there in the middle of the pack, 12-15 overall. It's not great. I'm not saying that, but they've been competitive against a lot of pretty good teams. They've played. I mean, RPI wise, I'm sure they're a lot higher than some of the other teams that are around in the conference because
they beat the number 1 team in the country. They beat the number 1 team in the country in a midweek, or at that time, number 1 team in the country.
Yeah. So we've got to put some of those things together there, I guess. But yeah, I mean, there's the standings yet again. It's just insane how close all of these teams are. And again, even the teams at the bottom, if they sweep a series, they're 5-7, just below 500, and it puts them right back in the mix of things with everybody else. Southern Miss could drop a series. They're now at 7-5, barely above 500. I mean, it's just you just never know. But I do think those 3 teams at the top are kind of in a classification of their own still right now. I mean, you can see that when you look at the overall records, right? But all three teams have 20 wins or more, and the closest team besides that is actually Georgia State with 18, which is still kind of crazy, right? That such a hot start can still benefit you, even with some losses that you shouldn't have had, or if you're not as good as, we did question Georgia State coming into the season with a schedule that was weak, right? I mean, they were beating people, and that's great. Now they're in the meat of their schedule, and we're seeing something different, right?
Yeah, everything changes when you get into conference.
But I think we all coming into this whole ordeal, we knew it was at least a 3-horse race, thinking it was a 4-horse race with Louisiana, which they kind of don't count them out yet, based on their conference start. But I think there's 3 at the top that we're going to be talking about every week. I don't think you're going to see all of a sudden one of these 3 teams drop 2 series in a row by any means.
No, I agree. I don't think you're going to see that. And like we said earlier, too, the fact of sweeping in this conference is just so difficult. You just see one guy that's hot on the mound for one of these teams, which is very capable of happening every single weekend, right? To see one really solid pitcher who's hot, I mean, it's not going to be easy to go in anywhere and get a victory, especially as an overall series as well. Do you guys want to talk about some of the games coming up? We're about 40 minutes in.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at the series this weekend to kind of get a jump start on it. So Southern Miss is on the road in Huntington against Marshall. Arkansas State's on the road at Coastal. Troy on the road at Old Dominion. Georgia State away at James Madison. App goes to ULM. Texas at Louisiana, and Georgia Southern South Alabama. There's there's a chance for Southern Miss Marshall, right? Like Southern Miss to continue to pad on there. Coastal at home against Arkansas State. They get the sweep. Spoiler alert, that's going to be my pick. But for a team like App, like on the way to ULM, like you get a sweep there, that's absolutely massive. Texas State and Louisiana, one of them can separate themselves. Can Georgia State get things back on track against James Madison? And then Georgia Southern, they're away at South Alabama. Can they take 2 out of 3 and stay high? I think we're getting into if we're going to say that the top 3 teams are the top 3 teams, it's time for those 4, 5, 6, 7. Like who's going to keep pace?
Yeah, I think we've got some great midweeks too before we even get to that point. App State versus Western, a long-standing rival from back in the day. Maybe not as big on the baseball side, but certainly kind of a regional matchup there. They actually traveled to Cullowhee for that one. Campbell takes on Coastal Carolina. That one, luckily, in Conway, as we know. Campbell has been a host to 2 separate Sunbelt teams so far this season, so we'll see what that one is like. George Mason and JMU. I don't really know about George Mason baseball, but I know that's kind of a regional matchup there. Georgia State also plays Kennesaw State, and Kennesaw State has routinely had a very good baseball program. Eastern Kentucky and Marshall should be a good one right there. Old Dominion gets a shot at Virginia. That'd be cool. Clemson and Georgia Southern. That one may be an underrated matchup to keep an eye out.
That'd be a really good one.
Coach Walford will be watching you on that one. I know he was tuned in a little bit earlier. I love that guy. He's tuned in almost every week. Jumps over on the Instagram feed. I can see him pop up. I don't know how long he stays with the program, but yeah, I appreciate the fact that he keeps jumping in here and checking us out. Tulane and Southern Miss, big-time rivalry, especially on the football field. For baseball, it's going to be heated just as much. That one at home at Pete Taylor Park for the Golden Eagles. Let's see, another one that stands out. We did have James mention the Central Arkansas versus Arkansas State. Like I said, it's just an easy matchup for those 2 teams to play. Texas State and Texas.
That's a big one.
Size yourself up against those Longhorns there, Bobcat fans. We'd love to see you take that one. We've already taken down A&M in conference. Let's add the Longhorns to that list. And then we've got the always interesting matchup on Wednesday with La Tech and Louisiana. They hate each other like nobody's business. That one's going to be a fun one. If you've got one to watch, it would be that one. But to note, former Sunbelt member Little Rock also travels to Jonesboro to play Arkansas State. Again, that may be part of that bend note that we've seen with some weather being a factor. But those are the games as we've seen them right now. Neil jumping in saying he's going over to Cullowhee tomorrow. and he's hoping to see a win. He says they should win, which is big.
Hey, Neil, keep your windows rolled up. We'll try to throw a diploma in your car.
Yeah, you could lose property value on that vehicle if you allow that to happen. So don't let it happen. It's just off topic. Yeah, Ben James is mentioning something that does need to be mentioned. A-State does hire former Alabama assistant head coach. Oh my gosh, I just saw the pronunciation of his name earlier. Ponin? I don't remember. I knew I'd screw it up. I was like, oh, I can get that right. And then if you don't look at it right before you say it again, you already forget. But yeah, we'll just have to see there. Arkansas State versus Arkansas baseball. Then that is April. Can't wait for April 8th because that's what he's going to see there. Neil's laughing. There we go. Ponone.
Hey, Dom, one thing we do need to get back into is a hitter of the week and pitcher of the week. We have quit doing that. So
we have pitcher of the week on the show tonight.
Yeah,
there you go. I like that.
Honestly, I know it's going to sound so homer, but man, Lichtenberg burger for App. That kid's absolutely on fire. I think he went 4 for 5 on Friday night, 2 for 4 on the first game Saturday. I didn't see the second game on Saturday, but freshman kid hitting 420 something. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's a kid from Southern Miss that the fan had posted. I can't remember his name, but he's phenomenal as well.
Yeah, we'll some unfortunate things in the schedule today didn't allow for me to get to some of the stuff that I had wanted to get to, which was kind of continuing on with a blind resume look or just some kind of fun feature that we can put into the show to kind of keep everyone coming back. And Seth's absolutely correct. We did fall off with kind of awards as they are the big ones, right? Like once they get this, they just stop playing. It's like it's the epitome of what they do, for the game. They're just looking for that syndicate appreciation.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, our own conference's website has not even updated for their players of the week.
Not only that, so I went to the website today. This is one reason why we do what we do with the graphics on this show and the graphics for the games when they happen. There's all kinds of stuff that gets mixed up. Marv, you've seen it recently. I think just last week when you were looking at something, it had a game listed twice on the same day, but it wasn't going to be.
They have it for this weekend. They've got duplicates for Georgia Southern, South Alabama.
Well, so if you go to the standings, Georgia Southern sitting there 5-4, 17-10 overall. It says they're on a win streak of 2 games. That is not factually correct. They won Friday, they lost Saturday, they won Sunday. If you go to their game, if you right click and say open in new tab of the Georgia Southern schedule, and you scroll down to the games that they played this past weekend, first of all 3 games are listed for March 29th. They didn't play 3 games on March 29th, so that's impossible.
Oh, they also the touted triple header?
Yeah, a triple header that didn't happen. They also have game 1 as a 2-1 loss to Georgia State. That's not what happened. Georgia Southern won the first game 20-0.
Yeah.
Then they have game 2's score, game 3's score. They're mixing me up now. The 7-1 victory they had on Sunday, they have that listed twice. They don't even have the 20-0 victory, and now they've also said that they've won 2 games in a row by the same exact score. None of it factually correct.
I'm going to make two really bold statements really quick.
There you go.
If anyone has Commissioner Gill's number, please send him this clip. Number 1, whoever's running the website, do better. Like, that's horrible. This is like one of the best conferences in most sports. Like, just do better. You're not doing great at your job. Number 2, Commissioner Gill, let us run the baseball portion of it.
There you go. I love it. We pay attention, right? We do these things. We're talking now. I'm not opposed to saying we saw it earlier today. I made a mistake on a graphic. Unfortunately, I don't have a team with me. These guys are my team. Let me rephrase that. I don't have a team that double checks my graphic work. That part is all on me because I don't have time and they don't have time and during their day to like double check everything for me. Occasionally I have tried to do that just to make sure I'm right. But there have been mistakes on the graphics. So I understand mistakes, but when you have a team, which is likely behind the website, right? It's more than one person in all likelihood. Proofreading and making sure things are better. This is a fan run side of things. That is a website that other media outlets and teams will use, and it's not factually correct. So that stuff needs to be improved, and we can help you.
Here's the big difference, Dom. They get paid to do that. You don't.
Yeah. That's actually correct. Yeah, I literally pay to do it. They get paid to do it. So yeah. So we do
a heck of a job at it, buddy.
Yes, you do.
I try.
You're very underrated for what you do.
Yeah, well, we like to have fun with it too. I mean, the whole reason we do it, some people probably see a bunch of posts, but I try not to only post but once a day. I try not to go overboard, but I want to create fan interaction. There's people that won't follow baseball because it's not literally put right in front of them. So I'm on Facebook groups, I'm on Reddit groups, putting it in front of people. You know what's really cool? There's a lot of people on the Reddit baseball thread that aren't even Sunbelt fans that will comment on the graphic from the scoreboard that I put up. Almost every week that I put it up, at least I get this once from somebody, again, who's not a Sunbelt fan, who says, I love that you do this for the conference. This is really cool to see. That's not a prop to me. They just like the fact that it's being done to make it easy. If you go to ESPN's app and look for Sunbelt baseball scores, you may see it for the teams that are ranked, but you don't see it for the conference as a whole. That's why we do what we do on the baseball side. That's why we put a whole show together focusing on baseball specifically. So, this is
maybe basketball would have got a little more attention if we had some more live broadcasts.
Hey, I'm all for your live basketball broadcast until baseball season starts, and basketball's got to take a back seat.
Yeah, until we get some runs in March Madness, that'll be interesting. Sounds like we have a solid team moving forward. We're going to have these two guys on for baseball. We're going to have TJ, maybe Brandon Turner making some more appearances on the football side. I know, for the App State fans, they've just kind of changed over from Learfield to. You guys see that announcement? They changed the broadcasting rights.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what Adam Witten is going to be doing. I don't know if BT's got stuff he's going to be doing or if that's all changing. Because Learfield is not the provider for App State athletics anymore as far as, the radio broadcasts and whatnot. So the Playfly, I think is what it's called, actually, if I can remember correctly. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. If that's something that does happen, maybe we see, like I said, Brandon Turner jumping on for the football side of things. Marv and I did a pretty good job wrapping up weekend. Seth was on that show a couple times as well. Again, for the basketball side of things, it sounds like we have at least one more season with Zach Capps, and he may continue that going forward. But while he's down there in Coastal Carolina, that'll be a big tool. And TJ O'Sullivan will be joining that one full time. And then we can be doing some stuff on the side as well. We've got big plans in the works to bring you guys, and we will let you know that information as we see it. But part of that is what Marv said. Give us full control. We'll help you out. We'll take over the social media thing and put it right in front of the people that need to see it. But yeah, I mean, guys, it was a great show. Really appreciate Caleb jumping on, Seth for working that deal in the background to get us a guest. As we know, we like to have the guest on. It makes it more fun. It makes it so that you guys want to hear and see it more often. Any last words, fellas, before we get out of here tonight?
I'd like to encourage people that listen to this, if you feel like your school or a player on your team isn't getting noticed or isn't getting the publicity, especially from us, let us know. And if you've got connections, help us reach out to them. We'd love to have a more diverse, showing of people and hear from different schools, especially teams that are hot and players that are excelling. So if you want more of your team and your players, hook us up.
Yeah.
It's like Dominic just said, it's not just us three. It's we want it to be, and everybody feel a part of it. We appreciate the feedback, the comments. Artie, we love you, buddy, especially you. But like Ben's here every week. We just it's a group effort, and we want to make sure everybody's included.
Yeah. Shout out to Eddie, who just made a comment. Appreciate what we're doing, and we appreciate you, Eddie. I've interacted with Eddie quite a few times on the social, especially on the Facebook aspect. So really appreciate him enjoying the content and coming back around and interacting with us. So I believe he's a Southern Miss fan, if I remember right off the top of my head. So yeah, we will continue doing this weekly. Barely made it by the skin of my teeth. I have. Right before we started, I was the sweatiest I'd ever been going into a podcast. Luckily, none of these guys had to sit by me or anything like that. I just got off the ice at the Carolina Hurricanes with my son. We got lucky enough to do that. So that's just a random fun fact that happened tonight. But I raced home from that to get here. And, hey, we started the show on time, guys. I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, guys, thanks for joining me once again, and we'll see you guys all next week, right?
All right.
See you next week.
See you guys.